How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Scarlet, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be taking a look at recent Pokemon news as well as massive possible leaks that I think you guys be interested in. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a beverage. It's going to be a long video. So let's get started with the first thing, which is coming to us from SoulSilverArt. If you do not know SoulSilverArt, he's a leak analyst that is close with certain leakers in the community, but he also does a lot of analysis of leaks and theorizing, and he does have information. I think it's a bit spicy, but he says, in relation to time, infrared and ultraviolet are one of the two opposite sides of the light spectrum, and they will never meet. Now, what is he referring to here for those of you who do not know? Well, basically, when you look at light itself, when light hits the Earth, it basically has to kind of like split itself for colors, like to be colors that we can actually visibly see. And we have the regular visible, color spectrum, green, blue, yellow, etc. But on the ends of those spectrums, we go left to right, you have ultraviolet and infrared where we can't see it anymore. And that's also what the names of these games are kind of based on. The Scarlet and Violet. One is based with Violet on ultraviolet. The other one with Scarlet is based on infrared because Scarlet is just the version of red. But we continue on though, and he says, what is exactly in the middle of those two ends? The visible light spectrum that is visualized as a rainbow, which is basically any light, artificial or sunlight, natural, related to time, being in the middle of the two ends of the infra and UV, would signify being the present time. So basically, anything in the middle here, for example, like green, which is what I've been speculating, could be the color of the third legend, because the two current legendaries are both based on time. It's pretty obvious, right? Both of these are based on time. It's pretty clear. One is from the future, one is from the past. That's the obvious thing. But the more interesting aspect is, how do these relate to all the other things? And here's what he has to say. Specifically, basically, all this has to say is, I believe the colors and the light spectrum is a metaphor for past, present, and future, and the extent of being related to the box legends is mostly that, as well as their overall designs being colored after Scarlet right before infra and Violet right before UV, ultraviolet, right? And here's what somebody actually put together here. JamesCard, by the way, shout out to JamesCard for this one, who said, instead of focusing on the past of the past or future, it's better to live in the present. Perhaps the game's main theme with the villains, the opposite of whoever the professor is, right? So if you look at this, it's perfect, right? This character over here is one of the professors, Sada in this case, who represents the past. Over here is Turo, who represents the future. In the middle, we have Nemona, the actual rival we're going to be having, and her name, part of her name, Nemo in her name, or Nemo in her name, literally means nobody. But also, if you read her name backwards, it literally says a omen. A omen can be a premonition of something to happen, right? A premonition or of something good or bad that might happen. So she's an omen of nothing, basically. She is the one who lives in the present. She's the representation of the third legend, and she even has a stripe that looks green colored, which fits perfectly into the middle of the actual light spectrum here. It fits right in the middle, exactly where it is, which is totally correct. So we'll continue on. The two opposite sides of the light and time spectrum, however, it flips with the third legend and the visible light. It's not indicative of what time it represents, present or middle time, but also its design inspiration and its light is the source of the region and gimmick. This is the perfect way to explain this metaphor. And if somebody looks up what Ozis here said, makes sense. We can only see so far back in time into the so far back into the past before we lose sight of it, and we can't see far enough into the future, but we can see the present. Exactly. There's something that I said as well, and I think somebody else put it even better, which is that basically, if you look at it, right, it only makes sense that these two legends, they are so distant from us, and they because the future is far away, and we can't visibly see it the same way we can't see infrared light or ultraviolet light. The same way that, we can't look into the past because it's too far back, and we can't truly see it, as clearly anymore. However, what we can see is the present. Right now, this moment is something that we are aware of. So I love this. This all comes together so freaking well. But to add to this, we have some interesting stuff here. Because, for example, if you see what Amariatash here actually has to say about this, he says, interestingly, we got 3 different rainbow references directly in the trailer. One, a rainbow above the city in trailer 1. So if you look at here, detailed 38, in this shot of the trailer, we can see a policeman's torch creating a rainbow of sorts, which you guys can see. Of course, that happens. The rainbow is scientifically a spectrum. A rainbow has 7 colors, VIBGYOUR, which is with V equaling violet, and R equaling red, which would be Scarlet in this case. And then we have also this case right here, the 2 time crystals. So apparently, personally, I feel this is similar to Raman effect. In scientific ways, Raman effect is the formation and dispersion of rainbow light, and rainbow light is just a spectrum with red Scarlet that has the MODT refractive index, and violet has the least. So basically, again, they're on the other sides of each other, so it just makes total sense. You can even see it here on the image. They literally, when they refract, are on the opposite ends of each other. So again, what does this mean? Well, possibly that the third legend is down the middle, right? It's going to be the present one, which might be green in this case. And we continue on. So I've already covered this before, but there is something I want to add from this post. So if you guys didn't see this, SoulSilver specifically said that like the third legend is basically the sun. And I've said this myself as well, and it's white light, which is used in the gimmick, is maybe connected to that. So still, it could be a peacock, or it could be a dragon of sorts. But I want to show you guys right here on the screen right now a design that was put together that I actually commissioned yesterday for this video. I want to show it to you guys. So here it is. This is a design that we put together of what it possibly could look like. Now, you guys might like it or hate it. It's up to you guys. I just wanted to give you guys a bit of an idea what you kind of could expect if they do go for it. So we added some handles on the back that kind of give it that feeling that it is a rideable Pokemon still, even though I do not think the third legend will be rideable, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, what do you guys think about this this idea, this concept? I do think that it's going to be a green colored one, and this adds in perfectly again to some of the other stuff that we've noticed from the trailer. It all just fits again together perfectly. But we have more to talk about that later. First of all, we have some bigger things, which is, what is the actual name of the other region? Well, some people have been trying to translate this because it was posted on 4chan. Somebody claiming that this is the name right here. It was written in Pokemon text. And if you actually translate it here, people have been translating it, and they got to the word Azula. Blaze translated it to Azula, which is actually pretty good, because I think Azul is actually the color for blue in Spanish. I could be wrong about this, but I think it is the color for blue. And this was actually sent to me by another viewer. I think a viewer specifically mentioned to me that yes, there is actually some odd references in the past from the Undertaker, who said there is some stuff in the past, for example, in this game called Pokemon Blaze, which references Azula, which is blue in Spanish, equals, blue equals sea, equals exploration again, which makes sense. It's the region of exploration. The Azula region actually makes sense. It fits with the color. It fits with the ocean, which is definitely very present in this game. There's very much the idea of traveling the ocean, traveling the world, so to say. It's a lot of connections to that. So I think we can determine that it might fit in here. Now, somebody did say it doesn't fit with the actual posted image, the map here that we've seen. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see if that is the case. We haven't really seen, the full map and what the name is on there. It could be like something else in total. But so far right now, it does feel like Azula does kind of match up well, at least for now. So what do you guys think about that? The name of the region being Azula, and Azula forms would be cool to call certain Pokemon. But we continue on to the next thing from Bokozo, who is a leak analyst as well. And he's been kind of posting a few things from, and kind of replying to these posts from Eclipse. Eclipse is a leaker, riddler, an individual that's been correct, but also incorrect in the past. So keep that in mind. Basically, he says, this gimmick existed for many decades. And he's referring to here what Eclipse said in a recent post, where he specifically pointed out, professors in Scarlet and Violet study refraction, but they do not know more about the gimmick, like they just discovered it. They do not know more about the gimmick. They just discovered it. This time it's already well known in the region, and they're testing a better way to recreate the gimmick using natural light, refracting it artificially to achieve so. What he's referring to here is kind of how in, most Pokemon games, when they introduce a brand new feature, it's not a new discovery for the people in that region. They know about, like, for example, Mega Evolution. They know about Mega Evolution in Kalos. They know about, a Dynamax in Galar. So same thing here. They're not going to act as if they don't know anything about it, but they do not know fully everything about it. So they're trying to find ways to kind of exploit it in different ways. And he says here, so the gimmick existed for many decades when technology wasn't advanced, so it needed to be worked with the sunlight for sure. Now, with advanced technology, professors are able to recreate it. This natural light comes from the sun, so you're praising it. Is that the third legendary? Well, continues on. Maybe it's not the sun, but the moon as well. Could be that. This screenshot is from an official Pokemon short film in the collaboration with a New York artist, Daniel Arsham, which dropped in February 2022. It involves Ash, Celebi, time travel, and crystallized statues of Pokemon. And yes, that could be something they might do. I don't really know if it's going to be the case, but there is references, again, at the end of the latest trailer, on the second trailer of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, there is crystals. There is a bunch of crystals, and there is, again, a space theme connected there. So space, time, all that sort of stuff is connected. We continue on to the next thing, which is from Soul Silver. This has to do, and again, Soul Silver, if you do not know him, he's a leak analyst. He analyzes a bunch of leaks and breaks them down and covers like the leaks and information. And he's basically said, I think many people have glanced over this. I believe the image in the middle will be a third typed gym, which is interesting because I kind of thought the same thing here. Something about this image doesn't feel right, okay? Because if you look at it, there are references with the little icons there, the little boat icon that's on the top and on the bottom. It's kind of a reference to, well, sailing, right? Which would give you the feeling of maybe water typing. However, the colors in the middle of the Pokeball look a bit more mixed up, like maybe even fire typing, but then the rest of the whole area looks like it's supposed to be grass typed. So it's a bit confusing because the rest of this all gives me that feeling of like a Dutch tulip field, okay? That's like what the whole like area, this whole like, you know, gym kind of shows me, but you never truly know. And something I don't think a lot of people have paid attention to is if you actually look around here, if you look around the actual, you know, gym itself, there is a bunch of like desert sand here. So it is possible that if you guys haven't seen this in the previous, like, you know, in the other trailer, you guys can see there is essentially all these are shown, all these images. I am pretty sure that maybe this location is the same as this one because of the desert sand area up here in the top. Maybe they are the same and they're trying to trick us into thinking that they're two different locations. I maybe might be wrong, but I think it's an interesting little point to point out. But hey, what do you guys think about that? He does also, like, you know, again, reference back to this with the Fire Electric Grass Gym, but he does say here that he thinks that this might be the third one, and he says this because if you compare it to the Pokeball in the first trailer, it has 3 specific colors instead of the rainbow colors. I still think the gyms will have one primary typing, grass here, but 2 other types will be featured, which I think could be a case here. I think that might be what they're going for. We'll continue on to the next thing, though, which is, a lot has been going on today, but how did I miss this? Well, I didn't miss this, but it's interesting that Soul would have missed this, because it's about this weird reply that the Pokemon Company did to a tweet from Twitter Gaming, which said, "What do you do for a living? Wrong answers only." And then Pokemon responded to that with, they are Pokemon professors, which means that that's the wrong answer. That's not what they are. They are the evil villains. And he says, this highly suggests that D2 are more than just professors in the plot. The prominent theory is that both are in one game, and depending on which version, one is the villain maybe, but it could also mean a number of things still. He continues on saying, of course, maybe both are villains, just in their respective versions. Or again, because of the PLA has a ton of hints to Scarlet and Violet, maybe it's more of a Kamado situation where they may be unintentionally antagonistic, but not truly villainous, or the true villain of the plot, kind of like how Volo was. I saw a rumor that said that these games involve multiple universes. They've already done that before, which is true. They've done that before in Pokemon games. They've done that with Oras. They've done that with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon as well. But watch when they show the professors. There's a static between them, and what's behind them is exactly the same. Could Scarlet take place in one universe and Violet in another? Or maybe in different times, you never know. It's actually now confirmed that both professors won't be in one game. It's one or the other, so I wonder how this will work, if they are truly villains, which I'm still not sold on. So we'll see, right? You'll meet Professor Sada in Scarlet and Professor Turo in Pokemon Violet. So we'll have to see how that all pans out. Going on to the next thing, which is, this is from SoulSilver again, saying, I've been thinking about this, specifically that there will be more student characters due to the fact that there have been multiple rival and friend characters since Gen 5. And what PokeFN1 said below, which he said, Nemona does not seem to have a starter Pokemon. Her first Pokemon seems to be Palmy, which means we still will have probably 2 other rivals, if those rivals are to receive the other Pokemon starters, which usually they have to do, because otherwise we can't really battle the starter Pokemon early on, which is what Pokemon games always tend to do. So probably going to be at least one more rival. Does this lessen the Nemona role then? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Well, maybe not. Theory time. If there is one other rival plus Nemona, maybe the other 2 of them together could signify the third legendary, getting basically 2 forms. Heavenly Fallen forms, maybe this other rival has a name opposite of Nemona's that means somebody and prophecy, for example. This also still works if there is a third rival and friend. This character would instead be the opposite of the player character, so in the plot, they will use the opposite box legendary that you choose. Just some random thoughts I had, hope you enjoyed. Saying, one more thought, there has been some talk about the moon too. If the third legendary had 2 forms, like I mentioned above, they could be represented by sunlight and moonlight. They'd never be called this due to the Gen 7 connection, but there's also this amazing thread of lore to back this up. And there's a post from Dion here. If we open this one up, it does have a lot to say. So Dion says here, so he starts off from the beginning, which there is a lot. And he kicks off. I thought I would have go at theorizing what the third legend is based on some stuff I dug up. The first thing I'd like to show is the shadow of a butterfly that appears for a few seconds in the announcement trailer as a security guard shines his torch at the wall. So here, for a second, we can just mute this. And he says that there is a butterfly that shows up. Now, I personally don't really see it. I think he's just talking about this like little segment at the end here where you see like a little thingy showing up, like a little shadow. And he says afterwards he shines his light up and searches for something above himself, after which he opens the door and we get our first shot at the room out of curiosity. And right in the center is this cage. Initially I called it a bird cage, but possibly it could be related to the cage for butterflies instead, which, yeah, this actually could fit if you look at the two of them. Could be the case, actually. They do look very similar. He says, now you see butterflies also have a very interesting relationship with light, specifically their wings. The non-brown and black and yellow colors you see on their wings is caused by light interacting in a special way rather than pigments, which is how most other creatures have colors. So their literal color can be just morphed and different depending on sunlight rather than actual pigment within, you know, their body and their cells. So he says, wings of morpho butterflies create color by causing light waves to diffract and interfere. Interesting. Very interesting. And honestly, a butterfly third legendary would be quite unique and different. That really would take the whole like idea of what we got on here and just throw it out the window and make for a different concept. I really like it. But he continues on though saying here, in fact, scientists studied the black wings of a rose butterfly to create a new type of solar cell, which harvested light at a higher efficiency. Imagine that, using a little butterfly to learn how to actually, like, you know, utilize sunlight even better. That is crazy, man. It continues on though. We can even relate this butterfly legend to mythology, which we know Game Freak like doing. So this is where we come to the sun goddess turned moon goddess of Irish Celtic mythology, Attain. Her story goes she was turned into a butterfly because of the jealousy of another goddess, Fumancha, and I think there is more information down up here that you guys can read if you want to on the post. But she was buffeted across the lands by the winds brought on by Fuamnach until she found refuge in the fairy place of Angus. However, Fuamnach and she was buffeted by her winds for another 7 years till she fell into a cup of wine on a chieftain's wife, swallowed and reborn, until one day she was found. And there you go. So I feel there might be a connection here with Nimona, but it's very loose feeling and nothing substantial. But the important thing to note is Attain is a sun goddess turned moon goddess who turned into a butterfly, which coincides with eclipses hinting at something to do with the sun and a bunch of moon related stuff in the original trailer that he posted about. He's talking about, again, Eclipse, a leaker, informant, you know, Riddler. And here's what he actually said here. So you don't understand my son, and then glimmering. And then there is a post here from Amaria Tash, who said we have more references of the moon in the trailer. So now we have 4 moon connections with Scarlet Witch, and Violet Agatha games. So moon globe, you got telescope in the astronomy books, lunar calendar, the door pattern, the ancient lunar calendar pattern is identically similar. So again, a lot of references, a lot of references. But this all again brings us back to this concept of, you know, what could they be based on? What could the third legend be based on? And what is the whole connection again to the rival Nimona? There will definitely be other rivals. I'm pretty sure they will do that. But Nimona does seem like the important one. She also seems a bit older than our character. Like she's an upperclassman, and older, more, you know, wiser, maybe trainer than we are. That's going to show us the ropes of how to get around the region and what to do. She might be similar kind of in a way to a rival, but a rival that's actually more mature than us and knows more than us and is actually more skilled than us in some way. At least that's what I'm assuming that might be the case. Could be totally wrong, but she does look quite a bit older than the rest of us. We'll continue on to again, the next post here, which is from SoulSilver, who says, here's a good test, and is referring to a post from specifically Samus Hunter, who said, I know people are hungry for a direct, and many asked about when it was going to be. I addressed that a couple of weeks ago, and now we have more evidence that my source was correct. A leaked mail that was badly uncensored confirmed a planned presentation for the 15th of June, which is next week, and that will perfectly line up on the Wednesday, which is when they do directs in general. And here's what it says. To learn more about the game, visit the official Na page here and download assets here on Watch the Trailer. And then it says, if you're interested in a review code, and then there's a bunch of info about that, confirming you can agree to hold a review coverage until Wednesday, June 15th at 9 a.m. PT, 12 PT, and live stream gameplay and guides and Let's Play coverage until June 16th. Please let us know of any questions. Basically, this is a game. If you don't understand what's happening here, this is from a game that sent out this info too early, and a YouTuber, content creator, website runner, whoever actually put this information out, like leaked this info, and now everybody knows that, they're doing this game for Nintendo Switch, and it's most likely going to be revealed during a Nintendo Direct next week, which also means that there's going to be new Pokemon information. That means new Pokemon info, most likely during the Treehouse Live. We might actually see proper first-time gameplay now for, like finally, you know what I mean? We're going to actually be seeing it. But not just that, maybe even some other new trailer stuff that we haven't already seen. Plus, at the end of this month, we're most likely getting a trailer, and I talked about this in our previous video, which you guys can go check out. It's literally the previous video on the channel, which talks about heavily about, like, you know, the legendaries, but also specifically about when the next trailer is, which I'm predicting is the 28th, 29th of this month. So we move on to the next day. He says here, I've heard so many amazing guesses at what Ku's new RF is. Now, what is we talking about here? Well, basically, Riddler Ku is a leaker, a legitimate leaker, confirmed real, has even leaked stuff for Scarlet and Violet already. For example, we know the typings of the legendaries, which if you guys do not know, the typings of the two new legendaries, Koraidon, Miraidon. I think specifically with the Scarlet legendary, you will have a dragon fighting type, and with the Violet legendary, you'll be having a dragon electric type. So we already know those typings, more or less. We also know the typings of the starter Pokemon, with Fue Coco being Fire Ghost, I think, and then we have Sprigatito being specifically Grass Dark, and the final one being Water fighting for Quoxley. So that's the actual information that he's confirmed for us, and in the last year, he actually gave us a ton of leaks for Legends Arceus, but he gave us this recent post where he said, he's been kind of hinting at he's going to be giving us a new regional form that he's going to reveal, but kind of weirdly enough, he never called it a regional form. He always said just the letters R and F. And he's been hinting that RF doesn't specifically mean regional form. So what is he referring to? Well, here is some of the possible ones. So he says what Kus have been might be maybe regional faller, ride forms, etc. They could be options, but I'm going with one of my own personal theories, is a riveting new regional feature. I've got nothing to back this up other than it makes sense to me. After the trailer, we have seen there are many new features in Scarlet and Violet: racing, ride legendaries, gimmick, etc. However, I believe there will be a boss Pokemon like in PLA, Nobles, Alphas, that are a new feature in this new open world. So I think certain Pokemon will become huge and change forms. I think that is very possible. So riveting, feature, riveting new regional feature. That's an interesting way to put it. And he says here, case in point, Diglett and Dugtrio will get riveting new regional features where they gain a new boss form that you have to defeat. This is probably the big Pokemon we see underground in the trailer, which, yes, I pointed this one previously as well. There is something here hidden that we can't see in this segment of the trailer, which we literally cannot tell what it is. And again, he did reference here this image of somebody's regional form of like a quote-unquote leak that hasn't been confirmed, probably most likely fake. But, he actually said, oh, this one actually kind of looks very similar to something that's going to be in the game. So, again, he's making these weird references to Riddler Ku. So, he continues on here saying, I expect something similar to be one of the new Scarlet Violet region features that change Pokemon themselves other than the gimmick, ride, or regional forms. Regional fossils is one that's struck me. Good chance old fossils get regional forms, but that doesn't really add up with Diglett. Regional founders make sense with time-related forms too. So this may sound like I meant this would replace gyms, but no, I believe both features will be in Scarlet and Violet. If Game Freak modeled Scarlet and Violet after great open-world games, it probably has many features, quests, and bosses to keep us engaged. I forgot to add that Ku also retweeted as evidence as to why Diglett is important. He did retweet this post of this animated video that was made by the official Pokemon company, and Riddler Ku never retweets stuff unless it has meaning behind it. He doesn't just retweet it randomly. He only does it if there is some meaning behind what he's putting out. So could be that. Also, somebody did say here, it could also be like RF could mean returning feature rather than, anything else. It could also be returning feature, an old feature returning. That's always possible. Moving on to the next thing, which is from Pocozo, because he also kind of implied here again about this post from Amaryatesh and said, I really like this. When I did research on the first trailer, I left those items references less as I had no clue how to interpret them. Makes so much sense now, and certainly puts this moon theory on the table. We definitely needed an astronomer like you here, Amaryatesh. And shout out to this man, by the way. Shout out to this man for doing the amazing work. But we continue on down here. It says, leaving this here too. This Titan thing became big when Ku released the first hints for Scarlet and Violet Legendaries posting his Masters post. Now, Titan is actually the actual code name of these games. Scarlet and Violet are codenamed Titan. And interestingly, Regirock being a Titan, plus Titan being the largest, moon of Saturn, it adds up well as well. It is interesting. There's a lot of connections to the moon here as well. And yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about the whole concept of maybe the moon and sun? Again, being connected here, you might think, oh, but we already had Sun and Moon as games. Well, there are different ways to interpret it. The light from them can be interpreted different from the actual, more like mythological way that people look at the Sun and the Moon, which is the way they were used in Pokemon Sun and Moon, the games. We continue on to the next post, though, which is that Scarlet and Violet is sized about 10.2 gigabytes, which is lower than Scarlet, shorter than Shield's 12.7, but higher than PLA's 6.2. Breath of the Wild is 14.7, by the way. We'll see how big this open world actually is. And he continues on down here saying, I still think 10.2 gigs is too little to include time traveling plus new regions. We cannot expect more than the whole region map plus a few islands personally. And then, people say here is Sword and Shield 12.7 with DLC. Don't think we need to worry about anything. I'm comparing Scarlet and Violet's gigabytes with PL8's gigabytes. Look at the difference, and it's huge. Sorry, I forgot to mention this. Sword and Shield DLC is, without the DLC, is 10 gigs. So basically, this game is in size, in literal, like, download size, like, tiny, like 100 megabytes smaller so far than the actual, like last mainline gen games, which were Sword and Shield. However, keep in mind, there is also a chance, like just because the game size is not like super massive, that's not the end of the world. A game can still be incredibly good and filled with a ton of content without having a massive file size. The file size is actually, the smaller they are, in my opinion, the better, right? In some way, I see it as a better thing because that means that they have learned how to code their games better and keep them smaller. Like actually keeping a lot of the files and textures and everything compressed to a point where like they don't ruin the quality, but they don't make the game bloated with like just files, because that's what games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, and a lot of recent games, they are massive files. Okay, I do not want to spend 150 gigs of my actual hard drive for one single game. That's too much. And if you actually look at those games, they're not even that crazy in what they do in their, whether it be graphics or design or anything to warrant that much space being taken up. But they do. So I personally think the 10 gigs, it is a bit worrying in one way because I hope they can fit the open world in. Because again, remember, with the open world, it would be a seamless open world, right? I'm assuming we're not going to be able to, not going to be needing to go through like, certain things to like loading screens and stuff like that. I'm assuming it's mostly going to be just a seamless world and seamless open world like most other open worlds are like. So let's see how that actually turns out. I want your thoughts and opinions on that, lads. Let's move on to the next thing, which is a random thought from Pocozo saying, could Overkill be another Easter egg for Gen 9? I mean, its shape, it really does resemble a cardinal star, which interestingly enough, it kind of does, doesn't it? If you actually look at it, it kind of does a bit, kind of resemble the one we see in the trailer, the one we see on the website here in the middle. If you guys can see it right there in the middle, where like the arrow is pointing with the yellow, you got that right there. And again, you see it in the actual icon, which is in the middle of the Japanese logo, which is the gimmick we're going to be having in this game. And yeah, I don't know, man, it is quite strange. He also says, plus he's doing Quillfish, could be hinting at Gen 9 on its tail, although it seems too direct, which yeah, it does look like the number 9 on its tail. Could be totally wrong though, but it does look like the number 9. To be fair. But I don't know, guys. Do you think that these Pokemon are hinting at it? That they hinted at Scarlet and Violet or not? Because there always is a chance they did. I mean, again, we don't really know. Continue on to the next thing, though, which is from Blaze and Cinder. It says, maybe it's a tease for something to come for Mighty Hina, which comes also from Chansey Channel here, who specifically said that I watched the first episode of Pokemon History and Snow, but who are they? Mighty Hina, Sprigatito? Well, I'm guessing these are Mighty Hina. They just look like regular Mighty Hinas with, I don't know what this thing up here is, though, but these over here, they look like Mighty Hinas and Puchinas, and, maybe they're hinting at something. I don't really know. And yes, they're even weirder is the fact that the story in Hisui and none of these Pokemon, Donphan, Arbok, Mightyena, appear in the region. And if that's Mightyena, they all three have different sizes: Poochyena, Mightyena, and New Evo. Interesting. Well, we'll have to wait and see if that's the case. I don't really know if that holds much value, but we'll have to wait and see, right? Next is a rumor from 4chan, which matches up with something Eclipse posted, and it says the following. So right after Eclipse tweeted about Ultra Sun and Moon, what are the odds? So here's what this actual post said. Sword and Shield sad news. Professors are studying time and its effect on Pokemon. New Smoochum Split Evo, Zoopsy has Psychic Dark typing and looks like a creepy old lady. Strong connections to Ultra Sun and Moon, which is interesting because in Ultra Sun and Moon, you do have Necrozma, you do also have the Ultra Wormholes, you do have the Ultra Beast, the connection to, time, space, other dimensions, etc. And it says, no Dolphin Pokemon still, but there is a new bunny that's more defensive and masculine, which is interesting. We did have kind of a rabbit bunny, score bunny, in the last game. But Rival has funny quirkiness about her. That's interesting. Not sure if it's traveling to a new area or time, but has a cool mini game to take you there. All right, that's strange. Some Hisui Pokemon haven't changed due to culture not bothering Pokemon's habitats. All right, okay, so he continues on. Journey starts in location matching Porto geographically. I'll be back soon enough. There's more to share. Just a very simple, small rumor. I'm not really sure, man. It's interesting. It is interesting that he does mention that it's going to be based specifically on Porto, which is strange that he would base. Okay, well, I'm curious to see where this might go. This is one of those rumors where it could actually be real. I don't know. This one seems a little bit more simple and not too overblown in its scope. But let's continue to the next thing, which is this post right here from Blaze Zero. It said the head thing on Fue Coco has to go big when it evolves. And he's referring to here the fact that it actually mentions on the post about Fue Coco that external heat is absorbed by the square scales on Fue Coco's stomach and back, then converted into fire energy. These scales are always warm, and at times they also grow very hot. So we can assume that they most likely will grow in size in one shape or another. So, hey, let's see how that turns out. And moving on to the next thing, which is in addition to that post, which is, what do you all think about this? I searched about this because of college on Tieba and that appeared apparently. I don't know if it has been debunked though, but nonetheless it's interesting. And he says here, I wouldn't say a rooster or bull are the legendaries, as personally I see this as the union, and union, I think this would be something that relates to both. As we have bullfighting too, probably not as much as Spain, but surely a sensitive topic to talk about. And in this case, I'm not really exactly sure what he's referring to here, because an extended description of the Cockatrice by the 15th century Spanish traveler in Egypt, Pedro Tafur, makes it clear that he refers to the Nile crocodile. So again, here it could be referring to that, but I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out and turns out. And we're going to end the video off with the final massive post by the Pondcast. Shout out to this man, by the way. He is a member of the Pondcast crew, who are guys that took over a Discord ran by an old friend of mine. But they have been basically like just kind of putting together, this man just put together a massive post here saying, so I'm cleaning up some Gen 9 IDs. Before anything, I want to thank these following people and for helping me with Theory Juice. And he starts off, this all starts with Fue Coco and the apparent breaking of the Fire Zodiac theme we've all truly come to love. But what if Fue Coco is the start of a new ID that keeps in with the Zodiac, but branches out to other Zodiacs and to the Mayan? The first symbol of the Zodiac for them is the crocodile. It stands for new beginnings and new potential, just like Gen 9 is a new beginning for Pokemon being an open world game. The crocodile also, interestingly enough, holds the knowledge of the underworld. Also, I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat for the rest of the video, even though I've been tinfoil hatting this whole time. Either way, Pokemon being an open world, the crocodile also holds knowledge of the underworld, which would also fit with Fuecoco's possible ghost typing, which, yes, it's going to be ghost typed. Okay, guys? The leak says so from Riddler Coup, so I believe it's going to be ghost typed as a second typing. The color connected to the crocodile, red, moving into the trailer, at the end we see two box legendaries. Taking a long look at Koraidon, the shape of its head and the feathers showed have a striking resemblance to the depictions of Mayan warriors, which, yep, there is definitely a connection there. You can definitely see that. Now, then we have the character Nemona. Others, such as Kayla, pointed out that her name is tied to Nemo, meaning nothing or none, or no one. But also, someone else pointed out that reversing her name, you get a omen, or an omen, something prophetic. Putting this together, you get an omen of nothing. What would be an omen of nothing? Well, simply the destruction of everything. The Pokemaniacs, which is our podcast, hey, thank you for the shout out, discussed the connection with the sun and the third legendary. What if this omen was of the sun being destroyed somehow or forced into going supernova? They also spoke of a green bird, specifically a peacock, to be a third legendary, but we have never gotten a legendary Pokemon that was based in the same region as the generation they were found in. To this, I offered the Macau, a bird also found in South America and a form of the god known as Kinchi Ahau, sun god of the Mayans. His domain is heat, light, and time, as well as synonymous with the number 4, the same number as the co-op option. How this all ties together in the Mayan calendar as and how for a time some people took that as an omen of things to happen on a certain day when it ended. If you look at the Mayan calendar wheel, you can overlay the new gimmick symbol over it and we see a connection. Yes, look at that. It does kind of fit in there perfectly, mate. It really does. That is creepily accurate, and I do not like it. It creeps me out, man. We overlay the gimmick. Yeah, what does this all have to do with Gen 9, considering that is based on Spain? Well, this comes back to the Pokemaniacs last podcast, which says, which I guess he's paraphrasing something here we said, the empire on which the sun never sets. Spain, for a time, has directed ties to the Mayans. It was in the 16th century, and the reason Spain, for a time, held this title. The two are historically linked and come full circle. And this is pretty hard to reach, but similarities are too close. In my eyes, to not consider the possibility. I do agree, though, 100%. There is the Titan aspect to consider. This could be a completely different thing. To this, I believe there may be a new variant or completely new Pokemon of a Reggie, which I do think there will be a new Reggie. A Reggie Titan, if you will. I think this will be because we very randomly and casually got 2 new Reggies, not in a main game, but in DLC. What if it was a taste of more Reggies to come in Gen 9, and therefore more codenamed Titan was given to it? It would also make sense as to Riddler Q's image, where the middle trainer has a Regirock as a Pokemon. It could have been any Pokemon, but that was a very specific one chosen. And my apologies to Eclipse, as he should have been mentioned here as well, but it doesn't matter. Pondcast, this is a fantastic theory, man. It's a great way to cap off this video because we're running for 35 minutes now. It's getting long. But ladies and gentlemen, I think this matches perfectly, okay? Titan does fit with, of course, the Titan Pokemon, which in this case would be the Reggies. It fits perfectly with them. And I do think that the Mayan culture, because you got to remember, again, there is a connection because of the colonization that was done by Spain and Portugal. There is direct historical ties between the Mayans and the Spanish, and even, I guess, the Portuguese to some extent, but there is a connection between all of them, okay? There is a connection, and of course, this is one thing you have to remember about Pokemon. They love taking culture from other areas than just the game that, the area it's based on. So honestly, using the culture and history of, the Mayans as a way to base a legendary off of it would actually be pretty cool. And again, there is enough connections to the rest of the stuff that it does make sense. And the fact that we're referring to, again, a Mayan literal god here that is the quote-unquote representation of light, time, and literally has a connection to number 4 is actually really, really curious, okay? It does make this whole situation feel a bit more realistic and possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, drop a like down below. Thank you for watching. My name is SoulSilverArt. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out and bye-bye.